A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11, India's longest running and only enabling platform that empowers entrepreneurs with pertinent information. I'm Ritwika Gupta, and tonight on the show we are bringing you distinct conversations with two different companies. In the first segment, we are deep diving into the world of logistics in a conversation with Saahil Goel, CEO and co-founder SHIPROCKET. And in the second segment, we are taking a look at the fintech industry with Nirav Choksi, CEO and co-founder CredAble. Thank you, Saahil, for joining us today on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you, and pleasure to be here.
So let's talk about your journey, Saahil. Can you share your initial motivation behind SHIPROCKET? How did you come up with the name, and perhaps some of the key milestones that led SHIPROCKET to its unicorn status in 2022?
So actually, we started SHIPROCKET with a different model. We used to be called CartRocket earlier, and we have been around for about 10 years as a company.
Sure.
And what we started out to do was to enable small and medium businesses to be able to go directly online and sell to their end consumer. So that was the whole thesis of doing this platform. And then over the years, as we went through the motions, we realized that businesses were actually not struggling with having an end-to-end application, but rather they were struggling more with them not being able to power the various components of e-commerce. So whether it was generating orders or whether it was processing payments or processing shipping, and narrowed down on shipping as a key focus area in 2016-17, because we understood that without actually making goods move from point A to point B, it was not possible for anybody to run their own commerce. That's kind of how the name changed to SHIPROCKET.
Okay.
And since we had tapped into a nascent market, which was growing very, very rapidly and grew rapidly over the next few years, we were able to kind of adapt ourselves to the changing market. We were able to bring a plethora of features, a plethora of suppliers to the seller base that we were working with. And we grew along with them, and their success became our success in some ways.
Sahil, could you give us an overview of the logistics and shipping industry in India? What are some of the opportunities and some of the challenges?
If you think about overall e-commerce in India today, it's roughly $70-80 billion of commerce. Of this, nearly 5 to 7% is being spent on logistics. So there's a pretty large market for operating, making more efficient, optimizing, enabling all kinds of logistics. And this can be in various legs, right? It can be from the manufacturer to the merchant warehouse leg. It can be from the merchant to an offline distributor or an offline retailer leg. Or in the most cases that we talk about B2C e-commerce, it is from the merchant location to the end buyer. So that's the piece of logistics that, we decided to power and automate.
Right.
India is a diverse country. We have over 20,000 pin codes spread out across various cities, villages, towns, and so on. And it is made further complex by the fact that different carriers serve different areas with different qualities. It is made complex by the fact that cash on delivery is still a pretty big mode of payment, especially in the direct commerce world. All of this put together creates complexities for small businesses who are operating in this space.
Yep.
While the sort of infrastructure has really improved in the last 5 years, 7 years, I think the government is really pushing hard. So very, very exciting industry overall. I think it's been called out by our finance minister as well. It's called the backbone of the country in many ways. And the B2C element of this, I think, is very exciting for anybody doing e-commerce because that's kind of how the goods eventually move.
So you've recently also partnered with the likes of Sky Air for drone delivery and India Post to strengthen the e-commerce ecosystem. How do you see these partnerships benefiting your end users, Sahil?
SHIPROCKET is designed to be a full stack e-commerce enabler. What that means is we help merchants all the way from marketing, conversion, payments, warehousing, and shipping. And as our commitment to doing this for our sellers and merchants, we are making sure that we get the newest, the most innovative, and the best-in-class partners on the platform. And we do this across the value chain. Within shipping, the two partners we've added recently, one is Sky Air, which is a pilot we are running for drone-based deliveries. Again, it's a pilot, and we've done some work in Gurgaon and some localities to experiment how it goes. Obviously, orders are reaching there much sooner, much cheaper. But there you need density, you need certain things to happen before it becomes a commercially available, generally available to everyone.
Absolutely.
On the India Post side, it is actually activating the world's largest postal network, which is India Post. They are available in more than 140,000 branches across India. It's actually getting access to newer merchants who are in tier 3, 4 cities, for whom up till now it may not have been possible to do commerce easily because there was no courier available to come and pick up goods from their premises, can now actually go to the post office and drop it, and then we can connect it pan-India so that they can also participate in e-commerce. So I think India Post will help our merchants and consumers to be able to easily participate in e-commerce, and it's a great alignment with the government of India in that sense, to be able to work hand in hand with them.
And how has ShipRocket leveraged data and AI, Saahil, to enhance offerings and user experience?
ShipRocket has always been a very, very data-heavy, data-focused company, right? Because we are in a space where we have to process data from various parties, right? Whether it is the carriers we work with, or the processing data from the warehouse, or from the seller's inventory system, or its demand data on the consumer patterns, and so on. And we use this data across the transaction. And going forward, as we break out into the payments space, into the marketing space, and some of these other areas of the transaction, we are going to follow the same playbook and utilize this large repository of data to further make the life of the merchant much, much easier and much more automated.
On that note, tell me, how do you then envision the future of direct-to-consumer retail in India? And how will ShipRocket contribute to it?
There is direct-to-commerce brands, and then there is direct-to-commerce as a channel. So let me talk about the channel, because that's more participative in the sense of having even offline brands that we know of that might be selling direct to their consumers outside of an intermediary. It could be digital-first brands, right, who sell largely digitally, got set up digitally, and they are trying to reach consumers directly. And you've got a host of micro entrepreneurs, which could be resellers or could be curators or influencers who are largely using social media as a way to reach their buyers directly. So all of these come together to create what we call direct commerce. And this is about 15 to 20% of the market already. It was less than 5%, 5 years ago. And it's about 50%, 45% odd in countries like the US. So clearly there is a huge amount of headroom when you think about, all the positive things going for India, with the growth in GDP, the growth in spending. All of that stuff will bring more commerce, first of all, and then hence more e-commerce. And ultimately, it will lead to a much, much faster growing direct commerce channel as well. So we think that all of the signs point towards direct channels becoming much bigger in the coming years. And we're obviously super excited about the opportunity and the promise that the market holds.
Okay. Well, finally, tell us, how does ShipRocket's mission align with India's goal of becoming a global superpower by 2047?
ShipRocket is in the business of creating businesses, in the business of helping entrepreneurs, in the business of supporting growth for entrepreneurs. One of the big agenda items for the government is to grow export. E-commerce export. We have recently launched ShipRocket X, that is helping small businesses again directly ship their goods, in 7 to 10 days across the world using a cost-effective method.
Fantastic.
We have built a bunch of technology and tools, as I mentioned, for businesses to be able to adopt easily and participate in e-commerce in a fair way. So I think as MSMEs are expected to contribute more than 50% of the GDP over a period of time, our mission aligns very closely with that, because we focus on the SMB market, we focus on their growth domestically, and we focus on their growth from an export perspective, and are very, very happy to be aligning so well with the government's upcoming sort of goal for India at 2047.
Well, thank you for your time, Saahil. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you, and pleasure to be here.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. Now, before proceeding to our next segment, here's quickly telling you all about Brand Surge, a new initiative by Times Network. This is a unique opportunity for startups to be on TV without a TVC that can help you reach up to 25 crore viewers of Times Network through packages starting at only 1 lakh rupees. For more information, log on to brandsurge.co.in. On that note, let's quickly move on to our next conversation with CredAble. I'm now joined live by Nirav Choksi, CEO and co-founder CredAble. Thank you, Nirav, for being on the show.
Thank you, Ritwika, for having me here.
Nirav, to start the conversation, help us understand what prompted you to work on building a platform for working capital.
I think one of the biggest challenges for SMEs today is to get access to capital when they really need it, right? Most financial institutions in the country are geared towards giving SMEs either secured lending products or unsecured products which are longer term in nature. So if you think about it, if right now we are sitting at the cusp of a festive season.
Okay.
So a lot of businesses need to have access to capital to buy inventory or to buy services to stock up for Diwali. Now, unfortunately, when they go to a financial institution today, the only sort of products they might get would be a business loan or a term loan, which is 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or 3 years in nature, while their requirement is really short term for the next 60 to 90 days. And not a lot of financial institutions are geared towards offering those kind of products. And that was a big opportunity that we saw to create a platform to be able to offer SMEs just-in-time financing for short-term working capital products.
So on that note, if you can elaborate for us, how are you enabling India Inc. and the country's MSMEs to grow?
So the way we look at working capital, Ritwika, is across 3 broad customer segments. One, you have the large corporates in the country. So you have their vendor, dealer, distributor, supplier ecosystems. Second, you have the SME itself, and these are businesses who could range from as small as 1 crore in turnover to 500 crores. And then third, you have financial institutions and banks who lend into these ecosystems. So what CredAble does is offers a bunch of digital platforms and pipelines, if I may, that connect into all of these 3 networks to enable a complete digital flow of working capital financing across these networks. So we partner with over 125 large companies today on one side. We partner with 35 odd banks and financial institutions on the other. And we enable working capital financing to over 300,000 businesses in the country on the third side. And all of this is done completely digitally without human intervention. So that is what the platform does. We, of course, also lend into this ecosystem. We are a RBI registered non-banking financial institution.
Right.
So we are able to bring our balance sheet and technology to be able to help MSMEs in the country grow.
So in a fairly crowded fintech market, what would you say sets you apart from other players?
We solely focused on short-term working capital and nothing beyond that. So our vision has been, can we build the digital tech infrastructure and the pipelines, if I may, that could enable multiple corporates, financial institutions, and SMEs to access this working capital. And I think that as a sole focus, we are one of the few companies in the country that only focuses on short-term working capital. So I think that's a big differentiator for us.
Nirav, how do you think your global expansion plans will benefit the Indian fintech industry and shape the overall landscape here?
I think what's prompted the global growth plans for CredAble is all the learnings that we've gathered here in India, both as a lender to the SME ecosystem and as a platform that enables working capital financing. We've had the good fortune of working with 35 odd banks in the country, all of them either in the private sector, public sector, or multinational. They've been participants on our platform, and some of them, approached us to license our technology, and that was the beginning of our what we call our platform as a service or banking as a service business, and that's grown extremely rapidly in India. And we saw the opportunity of replicating this success in Asia Pacific, in the Middle East, and the West.
Sure.
And that's why we embarked about 9 months ago into these markets, and we've seen some very, very good early traction in this space. So I think it's a very large opportunity for us outside of India to license all the working capital tech stacks that we've built, while we continue to focus on doing the same in India and also lending into the SME ecosystem in India.
So fintech companies have had to deal with a multitude of regulatory challenges. Tell me, what challenges do you anticipate in navigating international regulations and compliance, and how do you plan to address them?
Well, outside of India, we do not aim to do anything other than licensing our technology to banks. So we would merely act as a tech partner to banks globally. In that sense, I think the regulations that we would need to deal with our data protection, data security, things like that. And because we've been working with several large banks in India, including multinational banks, we've built the necessary infrastructure and put the pieces of the puzzle together, if I may, to address those challenges globally.
Nirav, what are some of the common financial mistakes made by businesses, and what financial advice do you have for emerging entrepreneurs?
One of the biggest mistakes we've seen SMEs make is to borrow short-term money and deploy it for long-term assets. So we see a lot of entrepreneurs, having a overdraft facility or a CC facility with a bank. They would draw that down and invest in, say, real estate or in capital equipment or in longer-term assets. Now that creates a significant cash flow mismatch, which is why a need for a company like us who focuses exclusively on short-term working capital, which is what they require.
Yes.
So that's one major issue that we've seen. We've also seen SMEs, given that they're so involved in growth and so involved in managing their cash flows in businesses, that they ignore compliances, they ignore ensuring taxes are paid on time, and having a proper accounting system in place, etc. And that affects their credit history, that affects their ability to raise money from financial institutions. So my advice would essentially be to focus on basic governance and good corporate governance. And that's not really very expensive to do. But the long-term benefits of doing that are significant. Also, to plan your financing needs according to why you need them, instead of borrowing from whoever gives you the money. I think those two things would be my key takeaways to SMEs here.
And what advice do you have for Indian businesses looking to go beyond domestic markets?
There's a huge world of opportunity out there. I think one needs to overcome the fear of just going out there and making it happen. But at the same time, I think it's very important to plan your investments carefully, right? It's important to spend a lot of time understanding which markets are most relevant,
Sure,
to your business. So I think a combination of these factors would be important for an SME to consider before they look to go global.
Finally, tell me, what is your vision for CredAble in the years to come?
Our vision is that over the next 5 years, could we address 20% of the working capital gap in this country and enable SMEs to have access to that kind of financing. And if we're able to do that, I think we would have made a difference to the world out there.
Well, all the very best to you. Thank you, Nirav, for joining us today.
Ritwika, thank you so much for your time.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.